This is
Chat the Great. How did your radio journey start?
So I started the club night in Norwich with my friend France, and we did that for a year or a bit more, and I did some other DJing and stuff, and I started writing about music for the university magazine.
Brilliant.
And so I kind of, by the end of the degree, I kind of decided I would like to work in music in some way, but I was really naive and really ignorant about the many options that were available, really. And at the time, UEA didn't have a radio station. It's well known for having a great student radio station these days, but that didn't exist when I was there. So radio hadn't really come into my mind at that point, although I had gone to the States during one of the summers and worked in America, and was really keen on college radio there, because I'd read and heard rave things about college radio and how it was bringing alternative music to people over in America. And so I tuned into quite a few. I visited one in Davis, California, where I had some relatives living at the time, a station called KDVS. And I remember driving around that town and hearing them play Velvet Underground in the morning and Camper Van, Beethoven, REM, and thinking, wow, this would be brilliant. Wouldn't this be great if we could have this in the UK? And so that was just kind of in the back of my mind. And then when I left university and returned to London, so I was originally from London, returned to London, I was trying to work out, how do I get involved in music? You know, and I kind of did some interning at a music magazine called Jocks, which is now defunct. It was a DJ magazine.
Brill.
But I found that awkward, and I found it difficult getting on with people. And I found that the music journalists I met, they seemed quite snooty and quite aloof and quite superior, and I was a bit put off by that. But I saw that there was a course for a media course for the unemployed, which was run by community service volunteers, and it was based at a cable radio station in Thamesmead in southeast London. So I applied for that course, but it was already full. But they took my name and my details, and a few months later they got back to me and said, we're running another course, do you want to do it? And I said, yeah, that would be great, I'd love to do it, because I was an unemployed graduate.
I feel it.
This is it. And so then I started doing that course. I mean, it's only a short-lived, it was like 3-month-long course, and it was a really interesting mixture of people there. So you had people, a few graduates who were looking for direction. You had people who were kind of 16, 17, straight out of school and unemployed. And then you had people who might be 50 and had been long-term unemployed and were looking for a way of getting some skills and trying to find a new path. So it's a real mixture of people. And it was based around this cable radio station, which had been built as part of this housing estate in Thamesmead. And it was a kind of strange setup whereby all the flats in the houses, or the blocks, had an aerial socket in the wall, and you put your TV aerial in that, and it offered you 5 or 6 different choices of what station you could get. So the normal terrestrial television stations, and then there was this one extra channel which was for a community radio station, which was Radio Thamesmead, which is where the media course was based. And I really liked the little bits of radio we were doing, and suggested, well, I'm a DJ, you should let me do a show. And they agreed, and so I started doing this show, which was called Sharp as a Needle, which was after a record around at the time, which I really loved. And the station, around that time, there was a campaign to get more radio licenses around both London and elsewhere in the country. And because at the time there was a proliferation of pirate radio in different places as well. And so Radio Thamesmead, which was a cable station, applied for one of these community licenses and got an FM license. And so I stayed involved and started a weekly show for them after the course had finished, and did that for a long time, for quite a few years. So once a week I'd go to Thamesmead. And at one point, I would sleep in the office there overnight, because there was no way I could get home from there at that point. But this was because I couldn't drive. I didn't know how to drive at the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there was a lot of commitment involved. You know, it was a 40-mile round trip.
That's a
but it was
sleeping
great.
bag.
Yeah, I had a sleeping bag in a locker in the office, you know. And then I go straight to work the next day. So that's how I got involved in radio, and I was doing that once a week, and I loved it. And then it was kind of dawning on me that radio would be something I would love to do, because one of the things that I liked about it was that you got to talk to people, and you also got to let the music do the talking as well. So you know, you could tell people a little bit about a song or about a band, but then you could get them to hear it. And instead of, at the time, the music press was very powerful and important, and I devoured it regularly, but I also would buy a lot of stuff based on what I read, and would often kind of be disappointed. You know, like the rave review that I'd read didn't quite match the reality, and vice versa. You might really read a really negative review and miss out on something, but that was actually really good, you know.